Hello there, Algebras, and welcome to your Chapter 2, Lesson 5 notes. We are going to be creating box plots, which means we want to have our graphing calculator pulled up, just like I have this guy right here, and just a quick refresh as to how to reset the memory on your graphing calculator. You press second and the plus sign, and then number 7 right here is reset. And we want to reset all RAM. So we press enter or 1 and 2 to reset. So one more time, second and the plus sign. I had to get out of that screen, sorry. Second and the plus sign. 7 for reset. We're going to reset all RAM. So either 1 or enter, and 2 to reset the RAM on your graphing calculator. That just gets rid of any data excuse me, that may or may not already be in your lists and things, maybe in your y equals that we'll talk about a little later, okay? But we want to get that all squared away first. So let's now start with Chapter 2, Lesson 5 notes, all about making box plots. I'm actually going to make some box plots on my graphing calculator today, so this is going to be pretty neat. So there's going to be kind of two parts to this lesson. The regular old making box plots by hand, and then I'm going to go through and show you how to make the box plots on the graphing calculator. So let's go, right? All right, so box plots, let's remember. So box plots are a really quick visual of where 50% of your data falls. What are the values that 50% of your data fall between? The box is your 50% of the data, okay? The median is that line that's somewhere inside the box. Sometimes if you're looking at a symmetrical box, that median will be the middle of the box. Sometimes it'll be off to one end or the other. The two ends of the box are your first quartile and third quartile, respectively. Okay. And the two end lines that are coming off of the box are your minimum and maximum, respectively. All right. Each section of the box plot, and once we make it, I'll go over this again, but each section of the box plot represents where 25% of your data falls, or 1/4 of your data. So if you know how many total data values you have and you divide that by 4, you know how many data values are in each section of your box. So typically we'd want a few more amount of data in our box plot, but I'm going to use this small set of data just to give you an overview and show you what's going on. Okay. So let's begin. I actually am going to use my graphing calculator for this right during while I'm doing this, but there's two things I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to follow what my notes say by rewriting the data and visually showing you how to create the box plot using your data in numerical order. And I'm going to show you how to find that 5-number summary on your graphing calculator again using 1var stats. Okay. So rewrite the data in numerical order. Well, I see that 65 happens twice and is also the minimum. Okay. And then I see my next one. So I've got 65, 65, then 70. Then I've got a 75. Then I've got two 80s. Oops, how about 80? There we go. And then we've got an 85. And we've got a 90. And we've got a 95. And we've got a 100. So if I'm trying to find the max and the min, obviously the smallest is the minimum and the largest is the maximum. So that part is nice and easy. So there's your min and your max, okay, when doing this by hand. Now, to find the median, count in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice there's 2 in the middle. If these weren't the same number, you add them up and divide by 2. You find the average of them, and that's your median. But because they're exactly the same number, my median is 80. Okay, because if I add 80 plus 80, I get 160, and 160 divided by 2 is 80. So it ends up being that exact value. Now, the thing about these is what we consider Q1 is this is the lower median, okay? So this is the median of the lower half of the data. So this is the lower half of the data, right? That's the lower half of the data. So now count in, and that value that's in the middle of these 5 data values, that's your Q1. That's your first quartile value. So 1, 2, look at that in the middle. That's your Q1. So notice that's the median, the middle data value of the low half of the data. So 70. Now, do the same thing for the high half of the data. So Q3, or the third quartile value, is the median for the high half of the data. So notice there's 5 data values. Again, count in 1, 2, there's your middle. So there's your Q3. Oh, sorry, I wrote all the other ones up here. I might as well write that one up there. Okay, and that's the upper median. Okay. These 5 data values, also known as the 5-number summary, must be written out every time you make a box plot. Okay, I don't care if you saw it on your graphing calculator. You need to write out and label those 5 measures with every box plot. Okay, every single time. Let's find them on the graphing calculator, right? They exist there. So grab your graphing calculator. We've already reset the RAM, as we know. Go to stat and enter to get to L1. That should be something that's old hat by now, right? Meaning I've done it a ton. Let's enter our data. So I'm looking up here because otherwise, angle-wise, I can't see my data. So I'm looking back up at my other screen. If you're a hybrid kid, at some point you'll understand why I'm constantly looking back at this screen over to the side. Uh-oh, I missed a data value. Let's see, who did I miss? $80, $75, $90. Oh, $95 got missed. Okay, second and delete, or notice this is blue INS stands for insert, and I get my 95 right in there. How did I know I was missing a data value? Well, when I got to the end and I put 100 in here, initially this said L19, and I know I'm supposed to have 10 data values. So I knew that I was missing one, but now I'm being asked for an 11th data value that doesn't exist. And so that's how I know, oh, I've got 10 things in here right now. I'm good. I've got all 10, right? And then just a quick glance above here, I can see that I've got all 10. So now I press stat and arrow right to calc for 1var stats. That's the only thing we use in this entire chapter is 1var stats. So there we go. Default list is L1, and we can just head down. You can arrow down, or you can press enter till you get to calculate and press enter. Look at that. X bar is 80.5. Well, that's the mean. That's the average of all the data. Real close to that median that we found. But I just want to point out, we have mentioned that SX is the standard deviation. The standard deviation goes with the mean, okay, the average. So I'm not worried about either of those with a box plot. Notice that they are not part of the 5-number summary. Also not part of the 5-number summary, but something I do like to check for my own personal use is N. N is the number of data values in the collection. And in this collection, we have 10, as we already know. Now let's head down. The minimum is 65. Good, we got that right. Look, I'm just going to put this off to the side so we can see. Oh, look, we got the minimum, we got the Q1, we got the median, we got the Q3, and we got the max. There we go. So the last 5 data values right here in your 1var stats are your 5-number summary. So those last 5 data values are your 5-number summary each and every time. Okay. If you're using this graphing calculator, of course, it's still stat and enter to get to your L1 and then entering your data. I'm not going to do that right this moment, but if that's what you're using instead of having a physical graphing calculator, you've got exactly, it's literally the same calculator. Mine is black, that one's white. That's the difference. Which, by the way, They have way cooler colors than these. I would love to get a cooler colored one, but this was the free one that TI sent me. So when I did one of their studies. Pretty neat, huh? Nice and colored too. It's all colored when we start doing our graphs. You'll love it. Oh, speaking of, let's do a box plot. And then I'm going to show you how to make a box plot on this really cool graphing calculator that I got for free from TI because they love me, right? Right. Draw a number line and scale it so all the data values can fit, including the minimum and maximum. Well, to scale it, I need to have a range. Now, notice the range did not come out of the 5-number summary, but it is something I can easily find by just subtracting the maximum minus the minimum. So 100 minus 65 is 35 is my range. Cool. So I got to fit 35 from minimum to maximum somehow on this number line. So I need to know how many hash marks are on my number line. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I've got 21 hash marks. I've got 35 as my range. And if I divide that, I get 1.6 repeating. Which means in order to fit all these data values, I need to go by 2s or 3s or 4s or 5s, right? I am going to go by 5s. And the reason I say this is because look at my data values. They are all divisible by 5. So even though it's not going to spread my box out a ton, it is going to mean that every single data value will be a hash mark, okay? So if I start like right about here, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100, there's where my max is, there's where my min is. So what you do now is we're going to put a dot above each of the values. Oops, sorry. We're going to put a dot above each of the values on the number line, okay? So there's the 65 dot, here's the 70 dot, here's the 80 dot, there's the 90 dot, and there's the 100. Now you take a straight edge of some fashion. It could be the side of your graphing calculator, the side of a ruler, the side of a piece of paper. If you're going with a piece of paper, I would choose like heavier paper, like an index card or cardstock, right? Maybe the side of your agenda book cover. I don't have a school agenda book, but I have mine, you know, cats and caffeine, obviously, right? So I could use that as a straight edge, but some sort of thing like that, that's what you want to be using, okay? Now, what you do over the Q1, the median, and the Q3 is you make longer vertical lines and then connect those, the Q1 to the Q3, with a horizontal of some kind. That creates your box. And I just kind of trim it up a little bit here. Then I create lines from the Q1 out to the minimum and from the Q3 out to the maximum to create my box plot with its lines out to the min and max. And there you go. Here's your min. Here's your Q1. Here's your median. Here's your Q3. Here's your max. Okay, there's where all of those pieces are. All right. So when I look at this, I know that 50% of the class had a score between 70 and 90. 50% of the class. Each of these areas is 25%. So 25% of the class scored between 65 and 70. 25% of the class scored between 70 and 80. 25% of the class scored between 80 and 90. 25% of the class scored between 90 and 100. So I know all this just visually looking at a box plot like this, okay? Now, my 5-number summary list is right here, but just to practice, anytime you create a box plot, you need to list the 5-number summary with it. So that is what I'm doing. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. Anytime I create my own box plot, I list the 5 number summary with it. So even though I have it right above where I am currently writing and where my box plot is, I am still writing it out to practice the fact that this 5 number summary needs to be written out every single time you have a box plot. All right? Cool. Let's do it on the graphing calculator. Okay? Grab your graphing calculator. Your data's already in there. I'm just going to show you stat, enter. Look, data's already in L1, so we're cool there. We've done our 1var stat. Don't even need to do this, but let me just show you. There's this really cool spot on your graphing calculator right here above y equals called stat plot. Notice it's blue. So in order to get to it, I press second and then y equals, and it gets me here. Stat plots. All of them are listed as off. I'm going to turn one of them on. So notice number 1, I can either press 1 or enter. And what I do right now, the highlight is on. So press enter right now. And notice now on is highlighted. And up at the top, plot 1 is highlighted. So it's on. It's turned on. Okay. Oh, my color is blue. Yay, good color. Right? So blue. Now what you do is you arrow down to type of graph. Now, if you have 2 lines for type, so you might have 2 right over each other and it lists all these 6 types of graphs that your graphing calculator can create. If you have 2, you have to arrow to the right to get from one to the next. And you can see that this right here, this and this are box plots. The box plot that has the little dots is box plots with outliers, which we're going to discuss in lesson 9. The box plot right here, or lesson 7, excuse me, lesson 6. That's right. Sorry, I redid my lessons. It's the next lesson. We're going to talk about that. But this is also a box plot right here. Okay, so you've got 2 options for box plot. It actually doesn't matter which you use, but I'm going to use this first one just because tomorrow we're going to use this first one, okay, or whenever you watch the next video. We're going to use this one right here. Notice what that did by clicking enter while I was highlighted over this box plot graph was it changed what I see here. There's only one list of data. That's because the other plot that was previously defaulted to requires 2 sets of data. But this requires 1 set of data, which is what we have. It defaulted to L1, so that's good. So it defaulted to L1, so that's where we put our data, so we don't have to change that. And unless you want your markings to change to one of these, I usually keep it as this, so I'm good. Okay, unless you need your markings to change, you don't have to change anything else. Unless you need your color to change, you don't have to change anything else. And I mean, let's face it, blue's the best color anyway, so we might as well go with it, right? Right. But here's the thing. Your graphing calculator defaults to having a 10 by 10 XY axis as its picture. But we need something different for a box plot. So what you do is you go to this button called Zoom and press it. Now, there's a lot of options, but hopefully you have zeroed in already on the option we need, which is option number 9, Zoom Stat. And that just means that what it's going to do is your graphing calculator is going to scale for you based on your statistics in your list. So it's going to create a nice looking scale and picture based on that scale, okay, based on your stats that you have put in here already. So if you press either 9 or enter, there's your box plot. Now this part is pretty cool. Okay, this part's pretty cool. If you press this button right here that says trace, you get the little spider. I call him my little spider guy, even though he only has 4 legs, not 8. But he's blinking, and what he's blinking on, that line, is the median, right? Well, look in the bottom left, and what does it say? Median. He's telling you the value of that median. So really, you didn't even need to do the 1var stats thing. If you just make your box plot in here, you just arrow right and left. Look at that. There's Q3 is 90. And the max is 100. And now we can go back left and go back. The Q1 is 70. Oh, the minimum is 65. He toggles you through what each of the values are. Okay, so that little spider guy, he will show you where each of the values are for your box plot. Okay, that is how we do it. It's how we do it on paper. It's how we do it on our graphing calculator. Okay, let's go through one more time. But if I'm you, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause. I'm going to make sure that I know what I'm doing first before I move on to the next. I just kind of breathe it in. Okay, I'm going to press clear. It gets out of this. If I press clear twice, I'm back to my home screen. Let's move forward now. I'm going to flip the page. Notice I haven't even flipped the page yet. We've done one full problem. And I'm just going to show you that here, I tell you exactly how to use this data, okay? And I tell you exactly where to put them in the graphing calculator, so just in case. But then, I grabbed the chapter 6 notes too, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to tell you exactly how to use this data right here on this picture. Again, I'm not going to do that one because it tells you your 5-number summary right here. This is an old graphing calculator, by the way, that it's using for all these, right? The old version. I've got the newer version that has a slightly different looking screen. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exercise 3 down here where nothing is done for me yet. So the first thing I want to do is I want to press stat and number 4, and I want to clear list 1 because I want to use that one again. So there we go. Okay, so clear L1, we're done. Now I want to press stat and enter. Bell change. And I'm going to enter my new set of data. Okay, so I'm looking up here to enter my new set of data, of course, but 85 and then enter. Oops, how about I type 100 correctly and then enter 97, 84, and I'm pressing enter from each one. You should be doing this right along with me. If we were in class, I'd be making you do this right along with me. Oh, there were 273s. Hold up. There we go. Whoa. Feels like there's a mistake on that last piece of data, huh? Guess that's purposeful. Gosh, I'm so smart when I make these things up and then I go to take them myself later and I'm like, whoa, look at that that's in there that doesn't seem to make sense with the rest of the data. Wonder if it's an outlier. Anyway, looks like we're supposed to have 14 pieces of data because it's asking me for a 15th and I don't have it. So let me just count, make sure I've got 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pieces of data. Sweet. All right. So if I've got 14 pieces of data, let's just do a quick 5-number summary and then I'll get a scale going on my number line. Could be a rough one, I think. So stat, arrow right to calc, and enter for 1-var stats. You can just press enter to calculate and look at that. So an average of 70.6, right? I just kind of rounded up there. 14 pieces of data, cool. But if I arrow down, I've got my min, my Q1, my median, my Q3, and my max. Now notice here that my median is 80.5. That just means that because I had 14 pieces of data, I had to take the average of the middle 2 pieces of data and to find that median. So that's why that happened the way that it did. Let me list my 5-number summary right here. Min equals 9. What did I do wrong? Oh, look at that. That should be a 90. So as I say, 10 should be my minimum. Let me just run that one more time. Phew! Now you and I probably have the same set. Something to watch for. Look at that, right? Got to watch for stuff like that. So mistakes like that get made a lot in class, by the way, and I usually will tell you the same thing as to how to correct them and just go back to your list, make sure your data is correct. So obviously some of you are probably watching that at home and screaming at me like, oh, you didn't press the 0. And that messed up my data because now look at what my average is. It's 76.4. So now I can see I still have that 14 pieces of data, but now my minimum is actually correct. And now my median is actually correct, which still is a 0.5 because I had to take an average of 2 data values in the middle. All right. Good catch there on your behalves who were yelling at me, but I couldn't hear you. Kind of like when you watch a sports game and people yell at the TV, right? None of you do that. No one can hear you. I'm just gonna find the range too while I'm here. Oh, supposed to be in class now. So the range is the maximum minus the minimum, and it is a range of 90, which I'm sure you all did in your head too, but just wanted to show you where I'm getting it from. So I found that over here. I already know, since this is the same number line I used on the front, that there's 21 hash marks. So to figure out my scale, I'm going to take 90 and I'm going to divide it by 21 hash marks. Okay. If you just press divide after you've got the answer you want to use already on your screen as the last value, if you just press divide, it says ANS right here, and then divide by 21. And I get 4.285. Okay. I got to go by fives. Because if I scale by 4s, I'm not going to have enough room for all of my data values. But if I scale by 5s, I will have enough room for all my data values. So there's going to be a little bit more estimation, quote unquote, of where some of these pieces are along the way. All right, so let's start here with 10 as our minimum, then scaling by 5, so 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. Nice. Okay. Now I'm just going to put those other ones in just a little bit smaller so you can read them all. I do this sometimes just so I can, my scale is still going by 5s, but I do this so I have a better visual of there's my, if I were skip counting by 10s, and there's my, if I'm skip counting by 5s, kind of goes like that. So it just gives me a little bit of help visually as to where things are going to go. So of course, dot over the 10, dot over the 100. There's my max and my min. Let's put the next dot over 73. So that's going to be like halfway between here and here. 83.5, that's going to be like halfway between here and here, a little closer to the 85, right? 90, oh, that's actually a measure. And there we go. So, all right. Straight edge, creating my box. It does need to be a straight edge. No, you can't freehand them. And what I'll do here is I'm just going to extend the dot. I turn these into lines at the end. Whoa. Now we already know by looking at the data that this 10 does not fit in. So this is a precursor to lesson 6 where we talk about outliers. But that data value does not fit with the rest of the data values. Okay. I've got my list of my 5-number summary, however. I can visually see my box. That's where 50% of the data is, between 73 and 90. So there were 14 data values, so 7 of them are in here. The middle, the median, is 83.5 right here. So we can see that that's kind of leaning closer this way than this way. And I just want to add that even though the spaces aren't even inside this box, this is the same number of data values as this. Okay. And that's what's telling you, oh, there's more things, there's the same number of things in here as in this whole space here. And so what that's kind of telling you is this is so spread out this is very close together, those same data values, okay? And so that's kind of how this box plot helps us, right? It's really showing us that this is very skewed left. Most of the data is over here. Like, look, 75% of the data is right here in this area. This is 25% of the data. So it is very skewed left. Okay, because the tail is to the left. I'm going to write that down just in case that happens to come up later. We are, of course, going to use box plots in the next lesson to help us talk about outliers, and we're going to use our graphing calculator to do the same. So when you're ready for lesson 6, make sure you have your graphing calculator ready to go, right? Reset that RAM and we'll get started, okay? All right, guys, lesson 5 homework goes with this. Good luck, my fine friends. Use that straight edge to draw those box plots, and I shall be seeing you soon. Bye.